Welcome. Tonight, we journey into the world of the Ice Age. A time when much of the Earth was colder than it is today, and vast regions of land were covered in ice. The air was sharper, the winds were stronger, and survival required constant adaptation. Early humans lived within this environment, moving across frozen landscapes, following animals, and relying on fire for warmth and safety. There were no cities, no permanent homes. Only open land, shifting seasons, and the steady rhythm of survival. Tonight, we will explore what daily life may have been like during this distant time. From quiet mornings in the cold, to long nights beside the fire. The cold world at dawn. As the first light of day begins to appear, it does not bring warmth. Instead, it reveals a landscape shaped by cold. The ground is frozen. Snow stretches across the land in soft, uneven layers. The air is still, but carries a sharp edge that can be felt with every breath. Early humans begin to wake slowly, their bodies close together for warmth. There are no walls to hold in heat. Only simple shelters, caves, or coverings made from animal hides. The fire from the night before may still hold a faint glow. A small source of warmth in an otherwise cold world. Living within the Ice Age environment. The Ice Age was not a single moment, but a long period of changing climate. Temperatures were generally lower, and large ice sheets covered parts of the Earth. Even in regions without ice, the environment was colder and often drier. This created open landscapes known as tundra, where few trees could grow. Instead, grasses, shrubs, and hardy plants covered the ground. These environments shaped the way early humans lived. They had to adapt to limited resources, long winters, and shifting conditions. The constant need for warmth. Warmth was one of the most important needs during the Ice Age. Without it, survival would be difficult. Clothing made from animal hides helped protect the body. These materials trapped heat and shielded against wind. Fire remained essential. It provided not only warmth, but also a sense of safety. Groups stayed close together, sharing body heat when needed. Every effort was made to conserve warmth and energy. Movement across frozen land. Even in the cold, early humans continued to move. Food sources could not always be found in one place. Animals migrated, and people followed. Walking across frozen ground required strength and endurance. The body adapted to long distances and harsh conditions. Tracks in the snow could reveal where animals had passed. This made the environment both challenging and informative. Movement was slow, steady, and guided by experience. The animals of the Ice Age. The Ice Age landscape was shared with large animals. Woolly mammoths moved across the plains. Herds of bison and reindeer traveled in search of food. These animals were an important source of survival. They provided meat, fur, and materials for tools. Observing their movement was essential. Knowing when and where they traveled helped guide human movement. Hunting in the cold. Hunting during the Ice Age required careful planning. The cold environment made every attempt important. Energy could not be wasted. Groups worked together to increase their chances of success. They used tools such as spears and simple weapons. Patience was key. Tracking animals through snow required attention and skill. Each successful hunt provided valuable resources. The role of fire in survival. Fire became even more important in the Ice Age. It was not just helpful, it was necessary. It provided warmth in freezing conditions. It allowed food to be cooked. It created light during long nights. Maintaining fire required constant attention. Fuel had to be gathered and preserved. The fire became the center of daily life. Shelter in a harsh climate. Shelter during the Ice Age varied depending on location. Some groups used caves for protection. Others built simple structures using bones, wood, and animal hides. These shelters helped block wind and retain heat. They were not permanent. Groups moved when needed, adapting to changing conditions. Shelter was about protection, not comfort. The shortness of the day. During colder periods, days could feel shorter. Light was limited, and the sun remained low in the sky. This affected daily activity. There was less time to move and gather. More time was spent conserving energy. The rhythm of life adjusted to the available light. A quiet midday in the cold. As the day reaches its middle, the landscape remains calm. The wind may move softly across the snow. The sky stretches wide and pale. Activity slows. Some rest. Others continue small tasks. The world feels still. Almost silent. The weight of the cold air. In the Ice Age world, the air itself feels different. Each breath is cooler, sharper, more noticeable. When early humans inhale, the cold touches the inside of the nose and throat. Exhaling creates faint clouds of mist that disappear quickly into the air. This constant awareness of breath becomes part of daily life. It reminds the body of the environment at all times. The cold is not just around them. It is something they move through with every step. The use of animal fur and clothing. Clothing during the Ice Age was essential for survival. Early humans used animal hides and fur to create coverings for their bodies. These materials were carefully prepared. Fur was worn on the inside to trap heat. Thicker hides were used on the outside to block wind. Over time, techniques improved. People learned how to shape and fit these materials more effectively. This development reflects both skill and adaptation. Clothing became a barrier between the body and the harsh environment. The conservation of energy. In cold environments, energy must be used carefully. Moving too much can lead to exhaustion. Moving too little can lead to cold. This balance shapes behavior. Actions become deliberate. Each step, each task, is done with purpose. Rest becomes just as important as movement. The body learns to conserve energy whenever possible. The sound of snow beneath footsteps. Walking across snow creates a unique sound. A soft compression beneath each step. Sometimes light and quiet. Other times sharper, depending on the temperature. These sounds become familiar. They also provide information. The texture of snow can reveal changes in weather or ground conditions. This awareness helps guide movement across the land. The observation of animal tracks. Tracks in the snow provide valuable information. They reveal where animals have been, the direction they are moving, how recently they passed. Early humans learned to read these signs. This skill becomes essential for hunting. It also reflects a deep understanding of the environment. The land itself becomes a source of information. The long nights of the Ice Age. In colder periods, nights can feel long. Darkness arrives early and lingers. This changes the rhythm of life. More time is spent near the fire. Activity slows. The group gathers closer together. The extended darkness encourages rest. It also creates longer periods of quiet. The role of fat and survival. Food during the Ice Age was not just about quantity. It was about energy. Fat became especially important. It provided more energy than other types of food. This helped the body maintain warmth. It also supported long periods of activity. Early humans likely valued fatty foods highly. This reflects an understanding of survival needs. The formation of ice and frozen water. Water sources often froze during colder periods. Rivers slowed or developed layers of ice. Lakes could freeze over completely. This changed how water was accessed. People had to find ways to break through ice or locate flowing water. This added another layer of challenge to daily life. The quiet stillness of the frozen land. The frozen landscape carries a unique stillness. Snow absorbs sound. Movement becomes quieter. The world feels more silent than usual. This stillness can be calming. But it also requires awareness. Even small sounds become noticeable. The slow approach of evening. As the day begins to fade, the light softens again. The temperature drops further. Shadows stretch across the snow. Movement slows. The group begins to return, preparing once again for the cold of night. The return to shelter at dusk. As the final light begins to fade, the group moves with quiet intention. There is no sudden rush, but there is awareness. The temperature is dropping. The wind feels sharper. Each step back toward shelter is measured and familiar. This place, whether a cave, a rock overhang, or a simple structure, has been used before. Not owned but known. A place that offers some protection against the cold. As they arrive, movement slows. The day is ending. The rekindling of the fire. The fire must be brought back to life. If embers remain, they are carefully uncovered. Small pieces of dry material are added. Slowly, patiently, the fire begins to grow again. This process is quiet and deliberate. There is no waste of fuel. No sudden movements. The fire responds gradually, returning warmth and light. This small success is important. Without fire, the night would be much more difficult. The contrast of warmth and cold. As the fire grows, the contrast becomes clear. Close to the flames, there is warmth, comfort, light. But just beyond that small circle, the cold remains. Sharp and constant. This contrast defines the Ice Age night. A boundary between safety and exposure. Between what can be controlled and what cannot. People remain close to the fire, adjusting their position as needed. Always aware of the balance. The preparation of food in cold conditions. Food, once gathered or hunted, must be prepared. In the cold, this process changes. Meat may be firmer, preserved naturally by low temperatures. Cooking over the fire softens it. Releases warmth. Makes it easier to eat. This transformation is important. It allows the body to gain more energy, which is essential in a cold environment. The act of cooking becomes both practical and comforting. The social space around the fire. As night deepens, the fire becomes more than a source of heat. It becomes a center. People gather around it. Sitting, resting, watching. Communication happens quietly. Through sounds, gestures, shared presence. This space encourages connection. It is here, in these repeated moments, that social bonds strengthen. And where early forms of communication continue to develop. The extended darkness of the Ice Age night. The night stretches long. There are no artificial lights to shorten it. Only the fire, and the faint glow of the sky above. Beyond the firelight, everything fades into darkness. This extended darkness encourages stillness. There is little reason to move far from the fire. Time passes slowly. Measured not by clocks, but by the gradual fading of the flames. The human brain and cold adaptation. Living in cold environments places demands on the body and mind. The brain must constantly process information about temperature, safety, and resource use. Planning becomes more important. Where to go? When to move? How to conserve energy? Some scientists suggest that these environmental challenges may have encouraged cognitive development. Not quickly, but gradually. Over many generations. The role of group cooperation in survival. In such conditions, survival is rarely individual. It depends on the group. Sharing food. Maintaining fire. Watching for danger. Each person contributes in some way. This cooperation increases the chances of survival for everyone. It also strengthens the structure of the group, making it more stable over time. The gradual quieting of activity. As time passes, movement begins to slow. Fewer adjustments are made to the fire. Fewer sounds are heard. The group settles. Bodies shift into resting positions. The energy of the day fades completely. The deep stillness of the Ice Age night. Now the world becomes still. The fire burns low. The air is cold. The land stretches outward, silent and unmoving. Above, the sky remains clear, filled with stars. For a moment, everything rests. The subtle movement of wind across the frozen land. Across the Ice Age landscape, the wind moves almost constantly. Sometimes it is strong and sharp, cutting across open plains and carrying loose snow through the air. Other times it is softer, barely noticeable at first. A gentle shift that brushes against the surface of the land. This movement shapes everything. Snow gathers in uneven patterns. Small ridges form where the wind has passed repeatedly. Tracks left behind by animals or humans begin to fade. The wind becomes both a presence and a force of change. Early humans learned to read it, to feel its direction, to understand when it signals colder air, or when it might bring shifting weather. Even without words, the wind becomes something understood through experience. The quiet strength of endurance. Life in the Ice Age is not defined by sudden moments, but by endurance. The ability to continue. To keep moving, even when conditions are difficult. To adapt, rather than resist. This endurance is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet. Built over time through repeated effort. Through long walks across frozen ground. Through nights spent in cold conditions. Through the steady repetition of survival. The human body and mind begin to reflect this endurance. Becoming more capable. More resilient. Not through a single change, but through many small ones, repeated again and again. The changing texture of the snow. Snow is not always the same. Its texture shifts depending on temperature, wind, and time. Sometimes it is soft, sinking beneath each step. Other times it becomes firm, holding weight more easily. It may form a thin crust on the surface, or gather in deeper layers that make movement more difficult. Early humans become aware of these differences. They learn how to walk across it, where to step, how to move efficiently. Even the ground itself becomes something to read and understand. The deep silence that follows snowfall. After fresh snowfall, the world becomes even quieter. Snow absorbs sound. Footsteps are softer. Distant noises fade more quickly. The landscape feels still, almost suspended. This silence is different from the quiet of night. It is fuller, heavier, as if the world itself has paused. In these moments, movement slows, voices lower, and the presence of the environment becomes even more noticeable. The endless white horizon. In many parts of the Ice Age world, the landscape stretches outward in a near-endless expanse of white. Snow and ice cover the ground, softening the shapes of hills and flattening the land into something that feels wide and open. The horizon becomes distant, almost blending into the pale sky above. There are few clear boundaries. No roads. No structures. Only subtle variations in the terrain. A slight rise in the land. A darker patch where the snow has thinned. A distant movement that might be an animal crossing far away. For early humans, this kind of environment requires constant attention. Without landmarks, navigation depends on memory and awareness. The position of the sun. The direction of the wind. The familiarity of certain features that might not be obvious at first glance. Movement across this landscape is steady. There is no rushing. Each step must be placed carefully, conserving energy while maintaining direction. Over time, this way of traveling creates a deep sense of spatial awareness. Not based on maps or measurements, but on experience. On the repeated act of moving through the same types of environments again and again. The land, though vast, becomes known. Not in its entirety, but in pieces. Connected through memory and movement. The long effort of survival. Survival in the Ice Age is not defined by single moments of success or failure. It is a continuous process. A series of small, necessary actions that must be repeated each day. Finding food. Maintaining warmth. Moving when needed. Resting when possible. Each of these tasks may seem simple on its own, but together they require constant effort. There is little room for excess. Energy must be managed carefully. A long walk across frozen ground can take more from the body than it appears. The cold increases the demand for food. The need for warmth increases the importance of fuel. Everything is connected. And because of this, life moves at a pace that reflects these demands. Slow. Deliberate. Measured not by time, but by effort. Early humans learned to live within these limits. Not pushing beyond them unnecessarily, but working steadily within them. This creates a kind of balance. One where survival is not rushed, but sustained. The quiet expansion of human understanding. As early humans continue to live within these environments, something continues to grow. Not visibly. Not in a way that can be easily measured. But gradually, over time, their understanding of the world becomes deeper. They begin to recognize patterns more clearly, to anticipate changes, to remember not just places, but sequences of events. This slow expansion of understanding is shaped by experience, by repetition, by the need to adapt. The brain, over many generations, becomes more capable of processing information, of connecting ideas, of forming early concepts. This does not happen quickly. It unfolds over thousands of years. But it is happening, quietly, beneath the surface of daily life. Each small improvement building upon the last. Until, eventually, these changes will allow for more complex behavior. Language, planning, culture. But here, in this moment, it remains subtle. A slow, steady growth. Taking place within a world that is still simple. Still quiet. Still shaped by the cold. The slow rhythm of walking across ice and snow. Walking becomes one of the most constant actions in the Ice Age world. Not hurried, not forced, but steady and continuous. Each step presses into the snow, leaving a temporary mark that may soon disappear with wind or new snowfall. The body learns how to move efficiently. Weight shifts carefully from one foot to the other. Balance is maintained without conscious thought. Over time, this repeated motion becomes almost automatic. A rhythm. Step. Pause, step, pause. The pace is guided by the land itself. Uneven ground, hidden ice, or deeper snow all influence how movement unfolds. Walking is not just a way to travel. It becomes a way of experiencing the environment. The crunch beneath each step. The slight resistance of the snow. The subtle shifts in terrain. All of it is felt directly. And through this constant movement, early humans build an understanding of distance that is physical rather than measured. Distance is not how far something is. It is how long it takes to get there. How much effort it requires. How the body feels along the way. This way of moving shapes both the body and the mind, encouraging endurance, patience, and awareness. The shared effort of maintaining life. In the Ice Age, survival is never an individual task. It is shared. Each member of the group contributes in ways that may seem small, but together create stability. One person may gather fuel for the fire. Another may prepare food. Others may observe the surroundings, watching for changes or movement in the distance. These actions overlap and support one another. There is no strict division, no fixed roles. Instead, there is a flexible system based on need. This shared effort reduces risk. It spreads responsibility across the group. And it strengthens connection. Over time, this pattern of cooperation becomes deeply embedded. Not something that needs to be discussed or decided, but something that happens naturally, through repetition, through shared experience, through the quiet understanding that survival depends on working together. The still presence of the frozen landscape. Even when nothing seems to be happening, the Ice Age world is never truly empty. The frozen land holds a quiet presence, a sense of stillness that is not absence, but calm. Snow-covered ground stretches outward, reflecting light in soft, muted tones. Distant shapes, rocks, hills, or animals, appear slowly against the horizon. The sky above remains wide and open, often pale during the day, clear and filled with stars at night. There are long stretches of time where movement is minimal, where sound is reduced, where the world feels suspended in a kind of quiet balance. In these moments, early humans are not separate from the landscape. They are part of it, moving within it, resting within it, existing alongside it. And this stillness, repeated again and again, becomes familiar. Not something to question, but something to live within. The gradual awareness of cold over time. Cold in the Ice Age is not always sudden. It builds slowly. At first, it is a light sensation on the skin, a subtle difference in the air. But as time passes, it becomes more noticeable. The hands begin to feel it first, then the face, then the body as a whole. This gradual awareness shapes behavior. Movements become more controlled. Time spent exposed is reduced. The body responds naturally, without needing instruction. Over generations, early humans become deeply familiar with this feeling, not resisting it, but understanding it, adapting to it, working with it rather than against it. The cold becomes part of life, constant, present, but no longer unexpected, the repetition of daily survival. Each day, though slightly different, follows a similar pattern. Waking with the light, assessing the environment, searching for food, maintaining warmth, returning to shelter. This repetition creates a rhythm, a structure without formal design. Over time, this rhythm becomes predictable, comforting in its own way. Even in a harsh environment, familiarity develops. The same actions, repeated again and again, building skill, building confidence, allowing early humans to move through each day with a quiet sense of understanding. The soft light of a frozen sky. The light during the Ice Age often feels different, softer, more diffused. Clouds may stretch thin across the sky, scattering sunlight. Snow reflects that light back upward, brightening the ground. There are no sharp contrasts, only gentle transitions between light and shadow. This creates a calm visual environment, one that feels still, even during the day. The world appears quiet, muted, as if everything is moving at a slower pace. The careful use of resources. Nothing in the Ice Age is wasted. Every resource has value. Wood for fire must be gathered carefully. Food must be used efficiently. Animal materials are repurposed in multiple ways. This careful use of resources develops over time. It becomes instinctive. People learn not to take more than needed, to preserve what they have, to plan ahead, even in small ways. This awareness supports survival, creating a balance between use and conservation. The feeling of distance without landmarks. Traveling across a frozen landscape can feel disorienting. Without clear landmarks, the environment appears similar in all directions. Snow and ice create a uniform surface. The horizon blends with the sky. Distance becomes difficult to judge. Early humans rely on memory and subtle cues. The direction of the wind, the position of the sun, small changes in terrain. Over time, this builds a deep internal sense of direction, one that does not rely on visible markers, but on experience. The quiet coordination of the group. Within the group, movement and action often happen without discussion. People adjust naturally to one another. If one slows, others notice. If one moves ahead, the group follows. This coordination develops through familiarity, through repeated shared experience. There is no need for constant communication, only awareness, a quiet understanding of each other's presence and behavior. The subtle signs of weather change. Weather does not always shift suddenly. Often, it changes gradually. A slight increase in wind, a difference in air temperature, clouds forming slowly overhead. Early humans learned to notice these signs, to anticipate what may come next. This awareness allows them to prepare, to adjust movement, to seek shelter if needed. The environment provides signals, and over time, those signals become easier to recognize. The slow passage of time in the cold. Time feels different in a cold environment. Movement is slower. Tasks take longer. Rest is more frequent. This creates a stretched sense of time. Moments feel extended, not rushed, not compressed, but expanded. Each action takes its place within a longer flow, creating a sense of continuity, rather than urgency. The presence of the group in silence. There are moments when the group is completely quiet. No one speaking. No movement beyond small adjustments. And yet, the presence of others is still felt. Through proximity. Through shared space. This silent connection becomes familiar. Comforting. A reminder that no one is alone. Even without words, the group exists together. The unbroken continuity of life in the Ice Age. And through all of this, life continues. Steady. Unbroken. Each day follows the last. Each generation follows the one before. The environment shifts. The people adapt. But the rhythm remains. Movement. Survival. Rest. Repeated again and again. In a world shaped by cold. By stillness. By time. The subtle weight of layers and clothing. In the Ice Age world, clothing is not just worn, it is felt constantly. Layers of fur and hide wrap around the body, adding both warmth and weight. Each movement carries that weight. Not heavy enough to slow completely, but enough to be noticed. The body adjusts. Movements become slightly more deliberate. Arms lift with awareness. Steps account for the extra material. Over time, this feeling becomes normal. The presence of clothing is no longer distracting. It becomes part of the body's rhythm. A second layer of protection, always there, always necessary. The quiet work of hands. Hands are always in motion, even during moments of rest. Adjusting clothing. Handling tools. Breaking small pieces of material. These movements are small, repetitive, and often unnoticed. But they serve an important purpose. They maintain readiness. They prepare for what may come next. Over time, the hands become skilled. Precise. Capable of shaping, holding, and creating. This quiet work builds the foundation for more complex tools and actions. The subtle shifts in group positioning. Within the group, people are rarely still for long. Positions shift slowly. Someone moves closer to the fire. Another adjusts their place to block the wind. These movements are small, gradual, but constant. They reflect an ongoing awareness of comfort and environment. No one needs to speak. The adjustments happen naturally. creating a shared balance within the group. The changing quality of light throughout the day. Light during the Ice Age does not remain constant. It changes gradually. Morning light is pale and soft. Midday brings a slightly brighter glow, though still muted by the environment. As evening approaches, the light fades slowly. Colors shift toward cooler tones. Shadows stretch across the snow. These changes happen without interruption. A continuous transition from one state to another. The feeling of still air. There are moments when the wind stops completely. The air becomes still. In these moments, the cold feels different. Sharper. More present. Without movement to carry it away, the cold settles. It surrounds. This stillness creates a sense of quiet intensity. A pause in the usual motion of the environment. The awareness of footprints and their fading. Footprints in the snow tell a temporary story. Each step leaves a mark. A clear impression of movement. But these marks do not last. Wind softens them. New snowfall covers them. Over time, they disappear completely. This impermanence becomes familiar. Movement leaves a trace. But only for a short time. The natural timing of rest. Rest is not scheduled. It happens when needed. When energy drops. When conditions change. People sit. Pause. Allow the body to recover. These moments of rest are woven into the day. Not separate from it. But part of its natural flow. The changing quality of light throughout the day. Light during the Ice Age does not remain constant. It changes gradually. Morning light is pale and soft. Midday brings a slightly brighter glow, though still muted by the environment. As evening approaches, the light fades slowly. Colors shift toward cooler tones. Shadows stretch across the snow. These changes happen without interruption. A continuous transition from one state to another. The feeling of still air. There are moments when the wind stops completely. The air becomes still. In these moments, the cold feels different. Sharper. More present. Without movement to carry it away, the cold settles. It surrounds. This stillness creates a sense of quiet intensity. A pause in the usual motion of the environment. The awareness of footprints and their fading. Footprints in the snow tell a temporary story. Each step leaves a mark. A clear impression of movement. But these marks do not last. Wind softens them. New snowfall covers them. Over time, they disappear completely. This impermanence becomes familiar. Movement leaves a trace. But only for a short time. The natural timing of rest. Rest is not scheduled. It happens when needed. When energy drops. When conditions change. People sit. Pause. Allow the body to recover. These moments of rest are woven into the day. Not separate from it. But part of its natural flow. The gradual numbing of the cold. As time passes in the cold, the body begins to change its response. At first, the cold is sharp and immediate. But with continued exposure, certain areas begin to feel less. The fingers. The face. The edges of sensation soften. This numbing is not comfort. It is a signal. The body conserving energy, reducing sensation to endure the environment. Early humans become familiar with this feeling, recognizing when it begins, adjusting behavior before it goes too far. Moving closer to warmth, increasing movement. The body and mind working together to maintain balance. The sound of breath in the cold air. Breathing becomes something that can be heard. Each inhale is quiet but present. Each exhale releases a soft sound, along with visible mist. In still air, this rhythm becomes noticeable. A steady pattern. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. This sound blends with the quiet of the environment, becoming part of the background of life. The subtle shifts of balance on ice. Walking across frozen ground requires constant adjustment. Ice beneath the snow can be hidden, unpredictable. The body learns to compensate. Weight shifts more carefully. Steps become shorter, more controlled. Balance is maintained through small, continuous corrections. Over time, this becomes automatic. No longer something that requires thought, but something the body understands. The gentle flicker of firelight. The fire does not burn evenly. It flickers. Small shifts in flame create moving light. Shadows dance across the ground, across faces, across the walls of shelter. This movement is constant, but soft. Never still. Yet never overwhelming. The fire becomes a visual rhythm. A quiet motion that continues through the night. The awareness of proximity. Distance between individuals matters. Too far, and warmth is lost. Too close, and movement becomes difficult. The group naturally adjusts, maintaining a balance. This awareness of proximity happens without words, through small shifts, subtle movements, creating a shared space that supports comfort and survival. The changing density of snow under pressure. Snow responds differently depending on how it is pressed. Light steps leave shallow marks. Heavier pressure compacts it. Over time, paths begin to form. Areas where movement has been repeated become more stable, easier to walk. These small changes shape how the group moves, guiding future steps. The quiet handling of tools. Tools are used carefully. Each movement is controlled. There is no excess force, no wasted motion. Whether cutting, shaping, or carrying, tools are handled with precision. This careful use preserves both the tool and energy. It reflects a deep familiarity with the objects themselves. The subtle awareness of hunger returning. Hunger does not arrive suddenly. It builds gradually. A slight awareness at first, then more noticeable. The body signaling the need for food. This awareness influences movement. Decisions begin to shift. Attention turns toward finding resources. Hunger becomes a quiet guide. The soft compression of snow beneath rest. When the body rests on snow, the surface slowly compresses, creating a shallow impression. The cold from below is present, but softened slightly by materials or movement. This contact with the ground is direct, unfiltered. The body adapts to it, adjusting position as needed. The continuous flow of small adjustments. Throughout the day, movement is made up of small adjustments. Nothing is fixed. Nothing remains exactly the same. Each moment brings slight changes. A shift in posture. A change in direction. A new position near the fire. These adjustments are constant, creating a flow. A continuous, quiet movement through time. The gradual build of body heat through movement. In the cold, warmth is not only something found near fire. It is something the body creates. At the beginning of movement, the body may feel stiff, cold lingering in the muscles. But as steps continue, something begins to change. Heat builds slowly from within. Blood moves more freely. Limbs become more responsive. This process is gradual, not immediate, but reliable. Early humans learned this through repetition. Understanding that movement is not just for travel, but for warmth. a quiet method of maintaining balance against the cold. The subtle awareness of wind direction. The direction of the wind carries meaning. A shift from one direction to another may signal changing weather, colder air approaching, or a temporary easing of conditions. Early humans feel this shift on the skin, across the face, along the hands. Clothing responds as well, moving slightly with each change. Over time, this awareness becomes instinctive. A quiet reading of the environment, always present in the background. The slight resistance of frozen materials. Materials behave differently in the cold. Wood feels harder, less flexible. Animal hides become stiffer. Even simple tasks require more effort. Bending, shaping, holding, all are affected by temperature. This resistance shapes how early humans interact with their tools and surroundings. Movements become slower, more deliberate, adapting to the conditions. The quiet formation of frost. Frost appears slowly, almost unnoticed at first. A thin layer forming on surfaces exposed to the cold air. On the ground, on materials, even on clothing. It reflects light in small, delicate patterns, creating subtle textures across the landscape. Early humans see this regularly, recognizing it as part of the environment. A visual sign of the cold settling in. The gentle shifting of weight during rest. Even in stillness, the body does not remain completely motionless. Weight shifts slightly. Pressure adjusts. Muscles relax and then reposition. These movements are small, almost unnoticeable, but constant. They prevent discomfort, maintain circulation, allow the body to remain at rest without becoming rigid. The fading of tracks over time. Tracks in the snow do not remain. Wind passes over them. Snow falls again. Edges soften. Details disappear. What was once clear becomes faint, then gone. This process is gradual, a slow return of the landscape to its original state. Early humans observe this, understanding that movement leaves only temporary marks. The subtle fatigue of continuous cold. Fatigue in the Ice Age does not arrive suddenly. It builds slowly, almost unnoticed at first. A slight heaviness in the limbs. A small reduction in speed. The body working constantly to maintain warmth, even at rest. This ongoing effort requires energy. More than in warmer environments. Early humans learned to recognize this quiet fatigue. Not as weakness, but as a natural response. A signal to slow down. To conserve. To rest when possible. The quiet habit of adjusting position. Throughout the day, and especially during rest, the body shifts often. Not large movements. Just small adjustments. Turning slightly. Pulling closer to warmth. Repositioning limbs. These movements prevent stiffness. Maintain circulation. And respond to the constant presence of cold. They happen without thought. Part of the body's natural rhythm. The slight variation in light reflection. Snow reflects light differently depending on its surface. Fresh snow appears brighter, almost glowing under daylight. Older snow becomes duller, more textured. These variations create subtle changes in the visual environment. Early humans noticed this, even without thinking about it, using it as a quiet guide to recent changes in the land. The awareness of open and covered ground. Not all ground is covered evenly. Some areas are exposed. Others are layered with snow. This affects movement. Exposed ground may offer firmer footing. Snow-covered areas require more effort. The group naturally adjusts their path, choosing routes that balance ease and safety. The subtle cooling of extremities. The body prioritizes its core, sending warmth inward. leaving the extremities, fingers, toes, ears, more exposed to cold. This creates a familiar sensation, a gradual cooling at the edges of the body. Early humans become aware of this pattern, adjusting movement, seeking warmth, protecting these areas when possible. The continuous need for awareness without tension. Awareness is constant, but it is not stressful. It does not create urgency. Instead, it exists as a steady presence, a background state of attention, allowing early humans to respond when needed, without exhausting the mind. This balance between awareness and calm becomes essential. The gentle compression of group space. As the group gathers, space becomes shared. Bodies move slightly closer, reducing exposure, increasing warmth. This compression is gradual, natural. No clear moment where it happens. Just a slow adjustment, creating a shared environment within the larger cold. The slight movement of air near the ground. Closer to the ground, air behaves differently. It moves more slowly, sometimes pooling in low areas, creating subtle differences in temperature. Early humans feel this through experience, choosing where to sit or rest based on these small variations. The fading of visual detail at distance. In the cold environment, distant objects lose detail. Shapes become softer, less defined. The horizon blurs slightly into the sky. This affects perception, encouraging closer attention to nearby surroundings, where detail remains clearer. The final quiet before complete stillness. And as everything settles once more, movement slows to almost nothing. The fire glows faintly. The air is still. The group rests. The land stretches outward in silence. Nothing demands attention. Nothing interrupts the calm. Only the quiet presence of the world remains. The air grows steady. The fire, once bright and active, now rests as a soft glow of embers. There is no movement beyond what is necessary. No sound beyond the faintest traces carried across the frozen land. The world feels paused. Not empty, but calm. Held in a quiet balance between one day and the next. The deep silence of the Ice Age night. Beyond the small circle of warmth, the landscape stretches endlessly into darkness. Snow-covered ground reflects only the faintest light from the sky above. The silence is deep, full, unbroken. It carries across open plains and frozen rivers, untouched by interruption. This is a silence shaped by cold, by distance, by time, and within it, everything rests. The continuation of the natural rhythm. Even in stillness, the world continues. Unseen, but constant. The earth turns slowly. The light will return again. Another day will begin, just as it has before. The same rhythm. Repeating. Steady. Reliable. A quiet cycle that has carried life forward for thousands of years. One final moment in the Ice Age. Now, imagine one final moment in this frozen world. The group rests beside the fading fire. The air is cold, but calm. The land stretches outward, silent and still. Above, the sky is clear, filled with distant stars. Nothing moves quickly. Nothing disturbs the quiet. Everything is as it has been. Simple. Steady. At rest. Thank you for joining this quiet journey into the world of the Ice Age. A time when early humans lived closely with the land, adapting to cold environments, moving with the seasons, and relying on simple rhythms of survival. Through patience, awareness, and cooperation, they endured one of the most challenging periods in human history. If you enjoyed this peaceful exploration of prehistoric life, consider subscribing to Dreamtime History for more calm journeys through ancient worlds. early humans, and the quiet stories of the past designed to help you relax and fall asleep. For now, rest well. And thank you for listening.